Hey, everybody. I've finally got around to organizing a little slideshow of the road trip that my dad and I took the end of last month and beginning of this month. So I thought I would share some pictures with you. If you're interested in more pictures and the full videos and stuff that I took along the way, there's a link down below in the description to a Google Drive folder with everything that you're welcome to check out. So we left our friend's house in the Seattle area and basically started just driving south down the coast. This is on the Oregon coast, and it was like pretty cold, pretty wet and windy. It was kind of nasty, but it was also cool. So we stopped our first little stop here just to look out on the ocean once we got to it. There's a lighthouse there way across the bay you can see, and the waves are just coming in. The wind on the waves just took the tops right off and just turned them into ocean mist. It was pretty cool to see and watch for a little bit. So then we continued south, and we got into the redwood area for our first night there. And of course the like damp, misty fog redwood forest is always cool to see. So this is not my first time in the redwoods, but I don't think I've been there during this like misty fog, and it was really cool to see. This tree was pretty funny to find, just tons of giant knobs. We decided to nickname it Gnarls Barkley because it was gnarly bark and stuff. So here's a little video panorama of just kind of the undergrowth and how luscious it is. And oh good, my Radeon thing is popping up and getting annoying. Perfect. Anyway, I added a couple of these little video pans just to sort of add atmosphere, I was hoping, because it's hard to see just from a picture sometimes what the area more feels like. So maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, we'll see. But it was just cool. We just spent a little while between rainstorms, sort of exploring the forest. Cool little stream there. And then we continued south out of the redwoods and along the coast once more. We found this chunk of land here, kind of stuck out in the ocean like a block. It was pretty funny. But then stopped and just looked at the waves a bit more. And it was pretty cool. Still breezy, but the sun was hitting, and it was a really, really pretty actually right here. Starting to warm up a little bit as we got further south. I think we're roughly, I don't know, probably an hour and a half north of like San Francisco in this area. Somewhere around there, but just stopped and watched the waves for a while. Pretty cool. So then we started heading inland, and if you can recognize what the silhouette of this would be, it's a Joshua tree. So we drove inland through California and made it to Joshua Tree. Did some hiking around during the night, and that's where I took this picture. That's the moon's actually coming up behind that Joshua Tree. And then the next morning we got up to explore the national park a little bit. It was pretty cold. It was like 20 something degrees, maybe 20 degrees ish Fahrenheit. And so pretty chilly, nice crisp, and we could see the moon just setting as we started exploring. But the trees and the rocks are just really, really cool in Joshua Tree. They're giant sandstone slabs all wearing apart in weird nobular patterns and stuff. But there's this little old mill that we went and checked out. It was originally a gold processing, or supposed to be a gold processing mill. I don't think they ever got much out of it, but it was cool to check out. Tons of super old stuff just laying around. I think it was late 1800s or early 1900s was when they were up trying to do stuff in here. Old car left over. not so old stuff. Saw a little rabbit, so that's always fun. The animals are really fun to see, and it's a privilege to get to see them. And so we saw this weird looking, I don't know, yellow. I think it's a flower stalk from one of the weird plants, desert plants in the area. Not quite sure what it was, but it looked really cool, so I took a picture of it. There's a few of those. I do like plant pictures; they're pretty interesting. Here's a good one of the broader landscape in the central or upper central Joshua Tree area, kind of. There's just really cool rock formations. You can go out, climb all around, have a great time. It was cool enough when we were there to, like I said, in the morning it was like 20 degrees, but by the afternoon it started warming up a little bit, and running around on the rocks really helped warm us up also. Here's a couple more interesting rocks. There's just tons of them. Look just like two cloaked figures sheltering something or someone from the back. Is really cool. Heading south through the park, we got to the little Cactus Forest area. So that's always fun. We stopped in, I forget what the name of these cacti are, but there's just a super dense patch of them through there. So we made it out of Joshua Tree and headed towards Phoenix, Arizona, which is where we were heading for our whole trip. Actually, we were heading for the Hall of Flame fire truck museum. I'm not sure. It's called the Hall of Flame though, in Phoenix, Arizona. And this truck here, which they have on display, was actually my dad's when he was a little kid. He and his buddies would all go play on it and clean it up a little bit, but he spent like his childhood playing on this fire truck, and it had since been sent down to the museum here for permanent keeping. It was actually our hometown's first motorized fire truck. So anyway, we wanted to go see it, and Dad got to check it all out again and see the things that they had fixed up and modified or not modified and stuff like that. So it was really cool to see it. And there was a bunch of other neat things in the museum too. Old shiny white fire trucks. This one has this crazy piece in the front. It looks like a crazy race car engine, but it's actually the water pump for the fire engine, just placed right on the front of the truck there. And then the other room had pre-motorized equipment. So these were all like horse-drawn pumps and ladder packages and everything. So just some crazy looking stuff. Then we stepped outside in the evening and saw this wonderful sunset. It had actually just been raining in Phoenix, which is pretty rare. And a couple days before we got there, even I think they had snow, so that was also kind of crazy. This evening we got just north of town and found a little campsite, and then did a little hiking at night. Looked back down on the Phoenix Valley and all the lights down there. Really fun hiking through the giant cacti. Next morning, we got to see some giant air balloons taken off from the west of us, I guess it'd be. And so that was cool. And then we headed east of Phoenix, up into the mountains a little bit, into there's like a state park and national forest area with a big reservoir, and there's like a windy road that goes through a pass. I forget what it's called now. But anyways, right to the east of Phoenix. And it had just been raining over the last couple of days. So all these rocks in the landscape were just super duper green. And it was these little lichens that had just soaked up the water from the last couple of days, and really the color just shined out. It was really cool. Saw this little mountain peak in the cloud role playing as Gandalf and the Balrog in the background. That's what I kept thinking of, at least. You shall not pass. Anyway, that was funny. And then we found a little place to set up our camp and just kept walking around the valley and the ridges and stuff. not really on any specific hiking trails, but just exploring the area a little bit, checking out the colors, just really cool colors. Here's a big reservoir that we were kind of up above where we were staying. There's a whole bunch of boats and everything down in there that people have. I'm sure people who live in Phoenix come up and have their boats up here and take them out on the reservoir. And I think there's a channel that continues sort of to the left in the image, up and away to the northeast, where you can continue up. And there's actually a fair amount of space because there was a ton of boats in the little harbor down on the reservoir. Anyway, we're hiking around. We saw a bunch of little cacti that were always fun to take pictures of. These little guys, super spiky, really pretty though. Don't step on them. And as the sun started to go down, we saw even more cool colors, and different parts of the mountains are highlighted by the sunset lighting. And so this one especially, and there's just really neat colors. The circumstances were just perfect. The rain previously, and then all the lichens really coming out. And we saw a little rattlesnake as well. And then we headed north and went through the Petrified Forest National Park. So this is in northeastern Arizona. And we were on our way towards Utah, actually. We were stopped at the Petrified Forest National Park and just checked out all the petrified wood there. It was really cool. Had a funny car here on display as well right outside the park. But here's one of the logs that's basically strewn about all through the park. It's just incredible. This giant masses of petrified wood all over the place, and here they're just scattered everywhere. Really neat painted hills there in the background also. So just a really cool landscape. They had a really old Native American structure here, I think, that was built out of these petrified wood chunks on display, and they had a little plaque telling about it. And it's really pretty too, and how handy it'd be just to have those to build with if you wanted to build something. The landscape around it's kind of barren and cold and windy, but it at least had these blocks to build with already, I guess, if you were going to live there. From there we went by the Grand Canyon. So we got there kind of in the evening, the sun's starting to go down, and we went for a little hike down into the canyon from the southern rim, and it was pretty snowy there actually. We hiked down there. No one else had used this trail since the last snowfall at least. So Dad and I just kind of trekked down in the snow. It was really fun actually. It was a really fun hike, plodding along. We got back up and it was actually like a lot past dark, but we made it back anyway. The next morning we went out again and just hiked along the rim for a little bit, east and west, before heading back towards Utah. And we saw these a couple of elk right on the trail in front of us, walking along, and it was super cool. We just kept walking, and they kind of just got closer and closer. Well, they were ahead of us. We were going the same way. And so eventually we ended up having to pass them on the trail here, and they were just standing right on the side. I took a video here as I was walking. I apologize for all the shakiness, but it was really, really sweet to walk right by these guys. And then they start walking with us. They're like wanting to be the leader there. But it was really cool. By far, definitely the closest that either my dad or I have ever been to an elk like that before. So then we continued up towards Utah. We came into the very southern point of Glen Canyon National Park, I want to say, across this bridge here, and we stopped to take some pictures, check out the river. It was a really cool area, and I took a video panorama here too. But we were checking out just the landscape, and then my dad noticed this big black bird sitting on the bridge across from us. There's the old bridge, which we were walking on now. It's just a viewing bridge. And then the other bridge across from us is the current highway bridge. And below it, there's these big black birds. And so we were looking a little closer, and it turns out there's condors sitting down there. And so I took a video of them, and they would just kind of hang out down there. They're walking along these beams, and whenever they walked somewhere, they would spread their wings out for balance, and it just looked hilarious. It was really, really fun to watch these guys. I was distracted watching them and sort of didn't do a good job with the video. But anyway, it was really cool watching these guys. So then I switched camera lenses and got a couple close-ups afterwards. But you can see on their shoulders, they all have their markings from their release from whatever it's called. Because of the condor restoration projects, they have all been captured and raised in captivity probably, and then released back into the wild. So they all have trackers and tracking numbers on them. But really cool to get to see these guys. And I don't think I had ever seen condors before. So anyway, this is actually right close by to that bridge. We hiked down this wash trail down to the river, and it was a really, really neat trail down this little skinny canyon that's been carved out by flood washes over the last years. And by the end of it, getting down to the river, it's really a big, deep canyon that is carved out, and it comes out right to the river here, which we were standing above, looking at the condors. So then we went back, and another part right just up the road from that, they have these pedestal rocks that have fallen down from the cliffside above, and then the ground around them has washed away, and they've been left on these little pedestals. I think they're like table rocks or something. Anyway, really cool to see as well. So from there we continued back west towards Hurricane, Utah, or spelled hurricane, but we were informed that locally it's pronounced hurricane. So if you want to fit in. And so I actually did field camp in this area for geology a year and a half ago, for school. So I was down there for a week and studying it and mapping the area. And so I showed Dad what we had done in the area we had explored, and we had the bikes this time, so I got to do some trail biking through there. There's cool fossils in a lot of the rocks down there. So this is a little shell fossil that was just stuck in the rocks, and there's even some pretty big ones actually. If you look, I'm sure a lot of them have been taken away though by now. Anyway, we found a campsite just west of Hurricane to stay that night. It was actually a campsite that I had gotten to see during field camp 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And we had just gone there for a day hike to walk around. But really cool rocks, bright red, and this little stream runs through the canyon and has carved out these cool formations, left little pools here and there. So when I was there in the summer a year and a half ago, there was a ton of people in here just playing in the water. Really cool valley carved out by the water. And then the layered sandstone just all around it. Just really, really cool looking. So we had a great time exploring that in the afternoon. And then this is actually similar rocks, a little bit different weathering patterns though. It's much more holy and pitted kind of than the last one. This is in the Valley of Fire State Park, actually, in the very south area in Nevada. So we went through here to see more red rocks, basically. But it was cool. Really cool area. Really cool rock formations. Just a lot of fun. And there were these wild sheep also that we got to see walking by. We were stopped for breakfast, and we just looked out not very far away from us, and this big herd of sheep was just moseying on by. And there were these little ones too with their moms they would follow their moms around. So it was really cool to see. And of course it's fun finding the cool looking desert plants and taking pictures of them up close, of course. And one of the things in the Valley of Fire State Park that I found really cool and unique was the stark contrast between these bright white and red rock layers. And so there's a couple areas in the park where there's just white and then red right next to each other. Really cool. A couple of small arches worn out here as well that we explored and played around in. But really just cool colors and cool rocks. Also, there's a ton of these petroglyphs down there. Dad and I have never seen so many petroglyphs. These giant black rock faces, just completely full of them. And there's tons of them just all throughout the park. It was really, really cool to see. And so that was one of the highlights of it. And here again, we climbed up on top of a rock sort of in the center of the park, and we're looking around and got to get this cool picture of the white and the red contrasted next to each other. And that's the last picture from the slide. We just drove straight north, well, not straight north, northwest, back home to Washington after the Valley of Fire, and called it good. But it was a ton of fun, really cool trip. And like I said in the beginning, there's a link to more pictures and videos in Google Drive if you're interested in that. So you're welcome to see that if you want to. Thanks a ton for checking it out with me. I'm glad I finally got to show you what I had been doing the last couple of weeks. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. See ya.